Adeptus podcast. My name is TK Diamantes. His name is Bricky, and it is indeed that time of the month because Kirioth is here. We'll get into that in just a second. If you enjoyed today's episode of the podcast, and maybe you want to support the podcast, head over to patreon.com/Adeptus Ridiculous, where you can get access to the Discord, bloopers if they happen. $15 tier gets you access to all of our posters in crispy digital HD format. You can also follow us on the Apple, on stuff, on platforms. It's great. You should check it out. Patreon.com/Adeptus Ridiculous. Also, Bricky.
Yeah, there's like a new poster, and I'm sure it's cursed and all the things.
Well, Bricky, there's actually two new posters for your and Kirioth's viewing pleasure. Shy, please show them the goods.
The most recent message from Shy was, "Oh yes, ha 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 ha." In the
there we go.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
I mean, it's. I would argue this time, like,
I get
fully
it.
thematically appropriate.
I get it. It's She Who Thirsts and the Prince of Pleasure, and there's the two. I get it.
You get it.
I get it. I get it. Okay, it's not a pun, but like the joke adds enough to it to where I'm like, I get it.
You get it. You get it, right?
He gets it.
Yeah, I think they're gonna do well. They're gonna do pretty well.
Maybe. I gotta be honest. You know what this reminds me of? Just this visual. Maybe I'm too league pilled because of Arcane recently, but it reminds me of Syndra.
Who the hell's Syndra?
It's a league champion. Here they are.
I kind of see that.
Yeah,
I get that.
The white hair, the crown type thing, the jewels, the family jewels.
Mm-hmm. The sort of purplish motif too.
I kind of see it. A little bit.
I see where you're coming from. I see. Now, Bricky, if I wanted to procure one or both of these posters in physical form, how, pray tell, would I go about doing that?
You would go to orchid8.com, a link in the description to check it all out. Get yourself some great stuff, get yourself some cool merch. We have a ton of new dice you can buy, some new shirts and hoodies. It's great stuff. Check it out.
Let's go.
Yippee.
For all your Thanksgiving Day gift giving ideas?
For parents,
more than anything,
perfect.
Absolutely. I totally forgot too. That also goes with the classic. I forgot it's Black Friday. That's right. By the time you're watching this episode, the entire Adric store will be 10% off. The whole thing. Doesn't matter how much you buy. It's a 10%. Roll the whole thing. Go to town. Yippee.
Hell yeah, buy a bunch of posters, because why not?
Do your thing.
Yeah.
All right. And Kirioth, you're here also, I guess.
Oh, yeah, you are. I mentioned him before. How are you, Kirioth?
I'm good. I'm just distracted by the posters. I'm going to scroll down a little bit, maybe reduce the size of the Discord window so that I'm not staring off to the right. It'll be fine.
Make it your PC background, brother.
That means this is in portrait mode.
Who cares?
Well, just tile it across. Go for full saturation.
Just make it how you can do repeating pictures as your desk. Just make that just an endless. Just Slanesh would be proud of you if you did. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Just yell at my children to get out if they try and come in the room. No, you can't see this.
Yeah.
Don't.
All right.
How about you yell at me about this episode's topic?
Oh, what a segue!
Nice.
I like it. Okay.
Nice.
We're going to do a presentation of scenario again. Okay?
Okay.
Imagine you live amongst countless others. You've never seen the sky. You've never seen the sun. You go from your hab block to the manufactorum. You do your shift. You come back home again. You enjoy a nice bowl of corpse starch and recycled water. Recycled from where? You probably don't want to think about that too hard. You then repeat that the next day, and the next day, and the next day. One day, you are called to go outside, to actually leave your place of living and work and go out into the sunshine, whereupon you step onto the ashen ground outside of your home and get caught in a horrendous storm that immediately flays the skin from your flesh and the flesh from your bones, and then your bones disintegrate as well. Where do you reckon you are?
Hell?
Krieg? Wait, you say storm, right? So okay. Let me see if I'm getting this laid out properly. We're like a hive worker of sorts, or some kind of like Hume. And I was
thinking underhive, but yeah, go ahead.
And then we leave out of the hive city to the barren wastes of the city, and then it's like the worst storms ever, because often hive cities have like bad weather outside of the planet. So am I stepping in what you're
pretty much there. You're pretty much there.
Okay, so is it the planet you want the answer for?
Or is it the underhive thing, like before the planet? Or is it both?
It's a Necromunda.
Essentially, we're going to talk about Necromunda along with a few other hive worlds.
Let's go.
They are horrendous.
Let's go. So do I get a dub by proxy?
No.
I mean, the Underhive, big part of Necromunda, so... really any Spire, to be honest. They're all pretty dreadful.
Okay.
That was a team dub, right? Because I didn't get a team dub. Well done, team. Well done, team Adric. Let's go. Tell us about the Necromunda.
No, just straight up no from Shy.
I got to be honest. That picture Shy posted goes so hard.
Whoa.
It's so good.
Is this recent? I don't think I've seen this photo of like a hive city before.
That reminds me of the mission in Space Marine 2.
Oh, I was about to say, I thought it was Darktide, because remember the train?
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
Darktide is set like in a hive city / on a hive world, so you've kind of got really a very good representation just going through screenshots of sort of the architecture of the place and sort of how it looks. But there's a ton of different hive worlds and different interpretations of the same flavor of awful, whereby you have billions upon billions of people living in a single structure, I guess, sort of in inverted commas, where there are just people stacked on top of people until you get about halfway up, at which point things start to get a bit nicer. But they only start to get a bit nicer for, well, the rich, the nobles, the people of importance. You have a huge crush of humanity, and then as things get a bit nicer, it tends to open up, and you've got like the noble houses and the imperial houses, and yeah, it's a really, really fun bit of like 40k stuff, because it's like they take all of the things that would be the worst thing to deal with outside of just aliens eating you, and compress it into a mountain that people made, and then everything outside it is awful, and everything inside it is awful unless you live at the very top, which is perfect.
I was about to say, like, this is, I think, one of my particularly favorite parts of Warhammer satire is that in their high the rich in their high spires, and they're like actually in high spires, and then they actually just don't even ever have to see the poor and the helpless, because they are so far beneath them, like actually literally beneath them. It's just, it gets me. Also, I mean, can you imagine if you were that rich that your view was that above the clouds into the stars is what your bedroom view is?
It's ridiculous. And it's not just being above the clouds on like a good chunk of hive worlds, because of how absolutely horrific they are ecologically and how much they destroy the planets they're on. You're above the clouds, but you also know that the clouds are poison. Like, it's not just kind of natural weather patterns or just being so high up that you can kind of escape rain or anything. You're escaping things like toxic rain, horrific storms that can rip the shielding from the outside of this gigantic structure. Like, you know that the people below you can't even go outside without having significant amounts of protective equipment on, because they will die. in most cases immediately. If they leave, they are immediately out of luck whilst you're just looking into space and this really nice kind of glow of the atmosphere and everything underneath you is awful.
So is today basically just like how a hive city is made? Like what? Here's a hive world. This is what it's like. Is that kind of the episode synopsis?
Pretty much, yeah. There's a few different types of, well, there's quite a few different hive worlds, and the hive cities are relatively similar from one to another, but there are some really interesting kind of extreme ones as well. We will talk about one called Land Under at some point later on, because I had no idea this existed, and I love the concept of it, even if it is mad. Essentially, imagine like the world of Necromunda, but upside down. Which sounds weird on the surface, and it is weird, but we will get to that. Effectively, hive worlds, they make up somewhere between like 25 to 10% of Imperial planets. It's not a hard number because Imperial bureaucracy is terrible and record keeping is awful, and no one really knows as much as they think they do when it comes to the Imperium and record keeping. But the thing they have in common is that the population of a hive world is absolutely staggering. So I've got a few different examples of population numbers. So Land Under, due to the type of world it is, that has got a population of less than 1 billion, which is actually not very many. Like that's not huge. But for contrast, the planet Icar 4 has a population of 500 billion human beings.
Whoa.
Which, logistically, how does that even work?
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you have a hive city that literally reaches into space, I mean, still, Jesus, 500 billion though?
That's spread across like lots of hive cities. So it's a hive world because there are multiple hive cities, but that's still insane. Like that number of people on one planet is absolutely mind blowing. Like I can't like tell how much that is, even though we've got the number. There's also another one called Mynea, which is 154 billion strong, and they have a 2 million strong garrison of guard. And as a planet, they send 1,250,000 people into the Imperial Guard every year.
That planetary governor is doing his job.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
GW is not beating the allegations of, God, we just don't understand numbers.
It's so funny, though.
It really is. It's just, imagine a number that's silly. Now quadruple it. That's how many people there are. It's like, okay, cool.
All right, sure, whatever, dude.
It just, I don't know, it gets me. Because wasn't it Armageddon that we talked about way back when? That just like, in a sense, if they did this is how much ammunition, how many people they did, and people did the math. It's like, well, if the teams are operating properly, then it will allow them to fire their guns for about like 45 minutes at normal efficiency before they ran out of ammo.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's
classic.
Love it.
So one of the sort of core features of hive worlds is that a lot of them are absolutely reliant on imported food and water. So the sheer size of them compared to the planets they're on, they cannot possibly sustain themselves, especially since a lot of them are kind of based around the manufacture of ammunition or promethium or just full-on tanks. There's a planet that has an insane amount of construction of just Lehman Russ tanks going on. In fact, I think that is the one from Darktide where the main export is Lehman Russ tanks because of a certain type of metal alloy that they mine. But it means that the planets are horrifically polluted. You've got land that has been completely destroyed via either harvesting or mining. You've got manufactories that are just spilling out polluting air 24/7 for like potentially thousands of years non-stop. So you need that import of food and water. And it's another thing of where the kind of difference in social classes comes in. So the people that live in the lower part of the spire, they get like corpse starch, and they get synthetic foods, and they get water that is just recycled from the polluted water of the planet, or, you know, whatever comes out of them.
Call my ass Bear Grylls the way I drink piss.
Wow.
It's basically what they're doing. I mean, in a sense.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, you rattled that off way too easily, friend.
I was thinking of it. I was waiting for Kira to have a stopping point, and then I couldn't find one, so I just interrupted.
So you just interjected. It's like, man, got a little too
Totally
trigger
fair.
happy with the me.
I feel like that's like most of these episodes anyway, isn't it? If we're being honest.
Trigger happy with the meme, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, I was thinking, waiting for me to shut up so you can say something. I was going that way with it.
DK waits for me, and then I wait for you. It's a cyclical cycle, you know.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. Yeah,
it's a whole thing.
It's an Ouroboros, if you will.
If you want a more British reference for the drinking your own recycle, then Red Dwarf, where they have margaritas, and then they get very unhappy with how it's not margaritas at all. About 50 people will have got that one. So yeah, effectively you're in a horrific state if you are lower down, but the higher ups, they get the nice food. They get the imported food, they get the nice water that's brought in from off-world, or in some cases is made out of the polar ice caps and purified and stuff. So they don't just live above the people down below them, they also eat better food, drink better water, because they can just have things brought in from out of system. However, that relies on stable warp routes, and that relies on imports being possible. So if something goes wrong, like there's some sort of chaos shenanigans, Hive worlds and Hive cities can collapse very quickly because there's just not enough to go around.
Oh, well, that would never happen in 40K, though. They're all so well adjusted and balanced and put together. Something like that would surely that's probably no records of that happening, right?
He's being
so
sarcastic again. Everyone beat on him.
Sorry.
But yes,
Sorry.
I mean, what's isn't like because there's the houses of the Hive City, right? That's like shown in Hive Primus that you posted earlier. But are we in the underhive or are we in the sump?
So I think your average person is kind of like underhivey, really. Either that or like working and living in the same section. They don't seem to really care how close people live to like manufactories and stuff. Like hab and housing and where all the bullets are made are pretty much contained in the same levels. So it's just constant horrific pollution, noise, recycled air as well, because of course there's not really a way to have fresh air in a city that starts out like 10 miles wide but is like 10 miles tall but maybe hundreds of miles wide. So it just becomes this massive, almost everything is on the interior, to the extent where you'll have some cities that have got actual little weather systems within them just because of the huge open space inside it.
Oh, so they have to consistently like even manipulate the weather of the Hive City so that they can actually live in their Hive City without like, because they've just ruined the planet to such a degree with this absolutely massive structure that they're just like, yeah, if we don't get like a weather satellite in here, we can't even live here. We're gonna just die.
I mean, I guess in a sense, when you've created yourself a gigantic like rockcrete and adamantium box, you know, and like I guess you wouldn't really be able to breathe very well, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to be ventilated. There are also heat sinks as well, due to the sheer amount of heat that they generate. And especially like for Necromunda, for Hive Primus, I think one of the kind of schematics for it, there is essentially a gigantic plasteel tube that runs through the center of the entire spire, which is used to heat it. So it goes down into the planet's core, and then it goes up through the city, and that acts as a heating element. But it also needs heat sinks for the amount of heat produced by manufactories and just the number of people living there, and all of the horrendous pollution and radiation going on outside as well. So
Yeah, it's everything that occurs. I mean, like living in the hive cities is already terrible, but then like the excrement and all that shit coming out of it goes into the wastes. Next thing you know, you get like a gigantic 70-foot tall toad that like has 14 eyes and 2 tongues, and then you die if the radiation doesn't kill you first.
Yeah.
This is what happens.
Like in that first example you gave us, where like if you step outside, it's just like a whirling storm that'll just eat you alive. Is that just like some planets are bad like that, or is that because, oh wow, we made this hive city, it's ruined the planet, and now everything outside of our little shield is, screwed? Or is it both?
Some planets are just like horrendous. Like we've talked about death worlds briefly in the past, but hive planets, hive cities, like just ruin the planet. They destroy them. Ecologically, they're an absolute disaster. So they destroy regular weather patterns. They churn up any sort of arable land. So any sort of farming is just a no-no after a certain point. The amount of pollution chucked out means that you don't just have kind of storms. You can have, especially on like Necromunda itself, there are ash storms that will build up but then never wind down. And so they will just get worse and worse and worse. And so a bad storm could kill nomads. A catastrophic storm can wipe out an entire hive city just through how abrasive and like poisonous and violent the storm is. So hive cities have been lost to storms so severe that they have continued to build and build as they have traversed the planet. Because in a lot of the hive worlds, things like oceans don't really exist. They've been either drained dry or they've been completely poisoned by the actual, again, by this massive ecological impact. So there's no sort of natural weather patterns left. It is just huge storms of like irradiated ash and sand. So like on Necromunda and some of the other hive worlds, there are manufactories that are buried under ash. So all of the stuff that's being made is spewing stuff into the atmosphere. That is then falling back to ground. And manufactories are being lost to ash because up to a certain point, they can keep them running as long as they keep them vented. But there will be a point where there's so much ash built up on top that they can no longer be serviced and they can no longer function. So like the level of the ground is actually being affected and raised by how much pollution is being spewed out by the hive cities.
Yeah, and so Shai posted like that picture again, and I don't know, I guess it's because my eyes are just obviously drawn to the big hive city spire. But then it's like when you look at the ground, it's like, oh yeah, it's just toxic waste. There's just pipes everywhere. It's all rusted. It's all just, and that's the whole planet. And it's just like, oh right.
Man's hubris really do be turning these places into just like a toxic pit.
Yep. How many hive cities is like the most on a single world? Like, because like just one big one is probably enough to just ruin a planet. Is there like, because there are hive worlds too, right?
Normally they have like the big one, and then they have like a whole bunch of additional hive cities kind of around the place.
Oh, okay.
I mean, normally they do like the usual naming sequences, right? Where it's like, something primus, something secundus, something tertius, right? That's often how they do a lot of their stuff.
Yeah.
Even in the map picture there, like you even have like the slick black sump. And you just imagine it's like this giant irradiated piece of like oil water. And then, then you have all the various towers out in the way. And then you have like, here's the plateau and then the wastes and the flats and the.
Yeah. Okay. Cause I heard Hive World and I was like, wait, you can't have multiple of these gigantic hive cities on like a planet, right?
That's exactly what a hive world is. It is a world that is completely dominated by these hive cities, where it's borderline just covered in them. Technically, Terra is a hive world because pretty much the entire surface of the planet is just covered by a city, pretty much. So I can just quickly reel off, just to give an idea as to, and this is just the example of Necromunda. And Necromunda is by far not the only hive world. There's like 30,000 something of hive worlds. So in the Western Hemisphere of Necromunda, you've got Hive Primus, Hive Trasia, a Populace hive, Hive Temenos, the Skull, Hive Secundus, Hive Arcos, Hive Minerva, Hive Prosperine, Alortus, Alpha Prime, Aranthor, Bellium, Ceres, Sinus, Hints, Janus, Meridian, Rothgol, Phaetos, Titania, Uthos, Elantia, Valkyria, Prison Hive Zalctra, because, hives couldn't get any worse until you make it a prison. Just the whole thing is a prison.
I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't realize there were whole hive cities dedicated to just being a prison.
Oh, it is and then it got worse. There's also the Skygelt Tower, and then in the Eastern Hemisphere, you've got Hive Mortis, Gothrel's Needle, the Quinspires Cluster, so multiple hives, which is 5 spires. So if you take Hive Primus, which is a single spire, the Quinspires Cluster is basically 5 of those together. And then you've got Hive Vosroth, and those are just the actual hive cities themselves. That is ignoring the vast underground networks known as the Forbidden Cities. That's also ignoring all of the nomad cities on the planet as well. So it's billions upon billions of people in one structure, but a planet can be just covered in those structures, which is how you get to stupid numbers like 154 billion people live here or 500 billion people live here.
Yeah,
wow.
Build up, baby. You can really fit a lot of folks if you go up.
Yeah, and then just build up all over the planet. There's just build up everywhere. Build the prisons up. Build every city up. Just cover the planet in spire cities.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the Earth, right? And you're like, okay, we're what is it, 70-something% water? So that's all uninhabitable. You have the entirety of Antarctica, which is uninhabitable. Well, mostly uninhabitable.
Mostly, yeah.
And then you just think the biggest cities hold a lot of people, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of free space. And what if instead you went up 14 miles?
Yeah.
Or whatever. I don't know how high it goes before we reach atmosphere, but probably it's
So Hive Primus is 10 miles high.
Hell yes.
With there being basically a massive barrier, like a wall, separating the bottom 5 miles from the rest of the spire, because the rich people don't want the poors to get in without a permit. So
of course. Huh.
There's a massive adamantium shield blocking off the upper part of the hive city from the lower part. And the thing as well is, because it drains all the water, everything gets completely ruined, you end up with more space to build on. I mean, you don't end up on a world with something called the sludge seas. Wow. Without doing some real real damage. So that's again a Necromunda thing where the seas have gone from being nice ancient oceans to they are now just a chemical soup or just polluted mud. There's also a big crust that's been baked by the sun. There's no ships. Conventional ships don't work anymore on that planet. It's flyers or overland machines. There are no actual ocean-going vessels because there's no oceans anymore. They're just all horrendous. But there are hive cities that have been built on them, so that they're either
on the Sea of Sludge.
Yes, so there are hive cities that have been built into the sludge seas, where on an oil rig, there's those massive piles that are driven in to the ocean floor. They've done the same thing on Necromunda, where they've sunk huge piles into the sea floor and then built the hive on top of that. They're smaller. They're not the same size as Hive Primus or anything, but they are still horrific, with mountains full of people, but built literally on top of toxic wasteland that used to be water.
Oh, gross. Oh, Shai said, that reminds me of that funny moment when Tyranids attacked a hive world, tried to go into the seas without realizing that the seas are actually toxic waste, and it melted a shitload of them.
Yeah, I remember that too. It's like
Believe it.
The Tyranids went for an invasion, and he's like, oh, because Tyranids are smart, and they'll like, I'll go through the water, and then they go through the water, and they're just like, and they turn into like the disintegrating emoji meme. Wait, hold on, I have it here. Don't you worry.
And then they probably adapted and could swim through it, right?
And then eventually they stopped firing people into the water, and then and then probably made their adjustments, and then went from there. Yeah, but I mean, there's always that one story of that one Tyranid invasion where like the noble was hiking and he was like, "Oh, the air is really thin," but I'm an experienced hiker. I know the air is not thin like up here because the Tyranids are siphoning the air. Oh God.
Yeah. Also, if this is jumping the gun, feel free to tell me. What's like the biggest Hive city that they've ever made? I don't know if it's the 500 billion one. Only asking because I would assume 40K future sci-fi that they would have the tech to actually be able to build these things up into space, like actually past like the atmosphere, maybe.
Shy, post me a photo of Mars, please.
I guess Mars would.
Please on the end really made it that one.
Yeah. I don't know why, but like it never like I don't. When I think of Terra, I'm like, oh yeah, there's not Hive cities there. That's just the Imperium's place, and it's like, well, no, like of course Terra would have shite loads of like Hive cities on it. I don't know why. Anyway.
Yeah, I think it's because Terra is kind of set aside. It's like it feels like its own thing.
Yeah.
Because it's the birthplace of humanity, and that's where everything started, everything reached out from, and so it's kind of like, oh well, it's the throne world, literally.
Yeah, that's different.
But
there's
at the same time, it's pretty much going to be the same kind of technology and the same approaches as really any other Hive world. It's just more important because it's Terra, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, do we have a photo of Terra? Like a modern 40K era photo of Terra? Oh, well, I guess there's that one.
Is that one? That looks like, I'm so sorry for making a dorky weeby. That's not a weeb reference. It looks like, what's the planet in Star Wars that they fly to, and it's just wall-to-wall lights everywhere on the continent?
Coruscant.
Coruscant! Yeah, it looks like that!
Yeah. Shai literally said that.
Oh no, did she really?
Terra is basically like Coruscant, but gothic and horrible.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm sorry.
I was looking at the pictures.
I looked so quickly at the picture. I did not see her literally say that. I'm sorry.
But yeah, right. I mean, I remember Terra being like, yeah, just astronomically nothing but cities. I mean, God save you when you get to like the Imperial Palace. That thing is insane.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't think Terra would look like this. But like from every description of it, it absolutely should look like that.
I mean, yeah, there's that. There's also the classic photo that's been reposted everywhere, which is this one with all the pilgrims that go to that kind of area.
Oh, I've never seen that one.
That's a good one. There's also this one that I also really enjoy as well. You got Dorn up there, but
shoot.
Yeah, Terra's pretty crazy. It's weird because Terra is like it's a Hive world, but it's also more regal. In a lot of it is more regal because it's Terra.
Yeah,
and like even the undercities of Terra, even though it does still suck, are not as like probably as bad as some other undercities, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like a amalgamation, isn't it? It's like it's a Hive world, but it's also almost a shrine world, but it's also the administrative hub of the Imperium as well. So it kind of fulfills a bunch of different criteria for what it technically is. But at the end of the day, it's still, most people, I would imagine, would just never see the flaw. Like, it's just, everything is built up so high and for so long, and it's expanded so much that I've always wanted to know if there's some reference in a book somewhere, and there'll be a, like, lore kind of genius somewhere who'll be able to answer this, whether the size of Terra has technically got bigger over the course of the Imperium. And by that I mean like the actual size of the planet. Like by the definition of how big the planet is, has it got bigger over the years? Because I feel like it should have done, or it must have done. just from how much it's been built up and built over itself.
Oh, you mean has it gotten bigger as in like have they built up like 1 mile high across the entire world? So in a sense its diameter is larger.
Yes. Like is it literally a bigger planet than it used to be?
Okay. I thought you meant like did they change the lore? Like did they do another retcon of some kind originally? But maybe
either way.
Or it
either
could,
way, I'd like to know.
Shy makes a good point. Or it could be considered smaller, considering they've siphoned every usable resource from
Terra.
Terra.
So deep into it, yeah,
entirely. So I guess that could also be a part of it. Because I know Terra has no oceans; they're gone.
Oh yeah, like with all these pictures I've seen, there's no way there's any water left on that planet.
That too is funny. Because how does that even happen?
It's that thing of like, okay, it's so extreme and it's so big that the rules of how a planet would even survive or people on a planet would survive no longer matter. There's no water on it, and yet it's covered in cities and there's billions upon billions upon billions of people there. But it doesn't matter because we have interstellar travel, so they just have water shipped in by the trillions of gallons every single day. That's the only way it can work, but that's how it works. So
I mean, hey, they've got warp travel, just phase them in from wherever your ice planet is, right?
I do love that because it just doesn't make any sense. You just can't happen. There's no way in hell that a planet like Terra can have enough water for its people brought in via ship for its sustainability. I just don't think it can happen.
And yet I'm sitting here and being like, no, it's 40K. I get it. I totally get it. Sure.
No, I do the same thing. I just give it all a pass. It's like, this is dumb.
It's just understood. This is sci-fi 40K. It's just like, oh yeah, sure. They've got something for that. Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming that obviously, the water is repurposed in a way. Like the stuff you drink will get piss, and then piss. Because matter can't be removed. The usual kind of thing there. But I'm also thinking about the amount of water required for engines and just general machinery.
True.
I can't imagine how much it's going to require.
Yeah, it's not just people needing to drink. It's how things are kept cool. It's how even just things like going to the toilet. Unless everything is bone dry somehow and still functioning, that's the solution we've got now, right? And so it's how does stuff go anywhere without this thing that we use now? Is there a better solution they've found? Maybe, but still.
That's literally what I thought. I was like, oh, keep things cool. I'm sure they've just got coolant packs that aren't made of anything with water, and that just cools stuff down.
Yeah.
I'm it's so sci-fi 40K fantasy pill that it's oh no, I'm sure they've invented something to bypass the need of water here.
Yeah. I'm just imagining how does Terra handle its water problem? It's the use of excessive amounts of psychers. They just use the warp in a contained way to create water. Because that's fine. It's they're wizards, they're sorcerers in a way, right? I just I cast water spell, and now the Mechanicum has more water. I don't know.
They go full D&D on it. Just create food and water every day. Let's go. I mean, they'd also need so many of them, but then that's another kind of facet of it where it's however many souls are needed a day. But it's okay, they're collected by the black ships, which are insanely rare to the point that no one ever really sees them. But then how does that work? Oh wait, it's an entire galaxy, and you can have 500 billion people on one world, apparently. And then suddenly it's the economies of scale make sense if you stop paying attention to the fact that they don't make sense.
I gotta be honest, this is going to severely affect the trout population.
Okay.
Also, the Burj Khalifa, that's right. They had to, had no sewer system. So they had to pump this shit out in massive shit trucks.
I didn't realize they were just pumping it out of it into trucks, and just the trucks were just offloading it in.
Yeah, I mean, it does now, obviously. Like, it has it now, but still.
Also, there was a horrible part of me that was like, oh, how do they get enough water? And I was like, oh, it's 40K. Do they do some horrible thing where, like, if you are a criminal or something, they literally put you into a machine and it just processes the water out of you as it kills you?
That is
because humans are made out
liquidize you.
That is
just
so
blend you down real smooth.
That is so AdMech pill that I totally believe it.
Right?
They just literally liquefy you, and then they emulsify you, and then they strain you and get the water out of your blood. I would 100% see that as an AdMech thing to a penal colony. No anesthetic, that costs money.
Yeah, and you feel as much of it as you possibly could.
What's the best filter out there? It's the kidneys. Luckily, we've got 500 billion people on this planet. There's an excess of kidneys. We'll just strain them all through kidneys. That'll be fine. That'll work. Let's do that.
It's so funny how we had the recent episode of Dark AdMech, Dark Mechanicum, and like the idea that they would do this type of thing for either faction is completely believable.
Yeah.
Like I would 100% see the horrible chaos Dark Mechanicum and just Adeptus Mechanicus doing the same thing. It's like, time for the kidney factory. We're out of adamantium. We need to filter the water. Everyone go to the penal colony and get me 9,000 kidneys.
And that'd probably be pretty easy to get too. Just 9,000 people. Sure.
Yeah, and then serverize the rest.
Of people here. Yeah. Oh.
And the thing is, for efficiency's sake, you could take 18,000 people and remove one, or you could just take 9,000 and remove both and have them die. And that would probably be better economically.
Or just like servitorize them, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, good God.
Delightful.
Oh, so good. So, mildly, it was a mild tangent, but it was all related, so it's fine. There is something that is specific to Necromunda that I wanted to mention, which is the Forbidden Cities, which I did mention a little bit earlier. Which on Necromunda there is a network of tunnels connecting different hive cities. That way, if there's an invasion, you can move troops from one to the other super quick. You don't have to go over the surface. You're not at risk of being shot down or intercepted. It's a great idea. However, quite a lot of them just either were forgotten or fell into disuse or collapsed or crumbled, and they have now been kind of rediscovered and reimagined as Forbidden Cities, which are the exclusive source of a drug called Ghast. And Ghast is made out of decayed corpse starch deposits. Oh yeah.
So is that gas like GASSED or like GAST? Is that gas like you just
GAUST?
I just tried to say it.
Wait. It's like GHAST? Ah.
There you go.
Like a gas.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, there are these vast tunnels that are they've become these areas where this drug is processed. And you might think to yourself, okay, well, that's clearly bad, right? You don't want that taking over your spires. You don't want the hive cities falling to the use of this drug. Except it's really the nobility of Necromunda that are controlling the trade of Ghast, and they are the ones who are utilizing it to just get richer, basically. There's a drug here. People like the drug. We will take over the use of, the distribution of, and the manufacture of this drug. And they have become insanely wealthy, even more than they were before, to the point where some of these forbidden cities are like literal palaces filled with the most insane works of art, like opulent kind of retreats for the rich and the wealthy, whilst the normals, the plebs, you just random guys, get annihilated by a drug made from corpse starch.
Sadly, that is the least surprising thing I've heard all day, is that the drug trade is controlled by the upper echelon nobles as a way to get more money of the people. Like, yeah, that sucks, but it's like, yeah, that tracks.
The thing is, it's also such a horrific, like, risk gassed. So, because it's made from corpse starch, it's got human proteins in it. And when you ingest it, it can awaken psychic abilities.
Can?
It can, or it can draw a person's soul into the warp.
Whoa.
Wait, what? Oh, because it could be made out of, like, condensed psyker?
Yep.
Oh, so you actually corpse starched, like, a latent psyker that didn't realize that, and then you're like, you eat this, like, bar or whatever, and you just get sucked into the warp?
It's effectively like kind of ingesting condensed human, but of course humans are psychically active. They may not be awakened, but like the race as a whole, the species as a whole, they have the ability to draw on psychic powers, and they can kind of peer into the warp and harness that to the point where, you know, thousands upon thousands are sacrificed a day. Gassed, it can either kind of wake someone up and be like, I'm psychic now, or their soul can just get sucked into the warp. Which, either way, I feel like that's not something you necessarily want in your hive city if you are a noble, you know?
Definitely not. So is this just a case of them getting sucked into the warp, or does it actively, like, open a warp portal, they get sucked out, and maybe some demons come through?
From what I've been able to find, it just seems like they become all limp and floppy and the soul's gone.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like a demonic incursion every time, but even then, it's not great. It's not ideal.
No, definitely. But I mean, unfortunately, I'm like, oh well, I can see how like the upper echelon kind of don't care then, right? Because like, oh, what? Someone that's using gas just got, you know, and sucked into the warp. No skin off my back. I made like $100,000 off him. Too bad, so sad. Bring me another pitcher of ice water, right?
Abelard, murder the poor.
Yeah.
Thanks, Abelard. Also, what is this? Spikers? Like
yes,
like the brute spiker from Halo 3?
Absolutely not. No,
oh.
Come here. Is the
what is that art?
That
mini goes so hard. What is this Megamind looking shit?
Oh, it's so good. So on Necromunda you have House Delac, and they are able to create their own psykers called spikers. And the way they do that is by injecting them with gas.
Oh,
I have depicted you as the soy jack and me as the big brained Giga Chad psyker. Look at it. The guy on the first photo. He looks so smug about it. He's like, "Yeah,
he really does.
My brain is enormous. It's full of wrinkles. Yours smooth."
And there's so many vials of gas. Like, it's not just pumping into like the needles in his head. It has those giant tubes on like the back of its cape, I guess. That's so much gas.
They want results, all right. So effectively, what you've got is House Delac. They have got a unique privilege that no one else has got on Necromunda, which is that they're allowed to create their own psykers. This is allowed by Lord Helmore, allegedly. That's what House Helmore says. Whether he actually said that or not is, either way. It could be true, might not be. They might be lying, we don't know. But it takes months or years to get one of these spikers. What they do is they strap someone down into a harness, basically just strap them to a hospital bed, and they just inject them with gas. Their body will atrophy, the cranium will get bigger and bigger. The ones who don't suffer like biological collapse or spontaneous and fatal cerebellum expansion, like, oh my god,
So some people's heads just explode because they just can't take it,
the head
and it just expands too much. And
yeah,
great.
They basically pop like a balloon full of water. Are given mouth valves and then conditioned by House Delac to serve as leaders of their gangs. And at that point, they are insane. They're absolutely insane. They don't know what's happening, or they can hear like all thoughts within hundreds of meters in all directions, which, because they're in a hive city, that can mean thousands upon thousands of minds and thoughts simultaneously, all constantly talking into the spiker's head.
Ooh. So they're not well adjusted. Also, so they're not even taking like latent psychers. They're just taking anybody, strapping them to a table, and just pumping them full of the gas. Oh,
yep. Just anyone really, because gas can awaken it in anyone. So it, just random bloke walking down the street late at night, he's gone. He might be aghast, or he might have his head explode. It could be one of the two. Not aghast, a spiker, but.
And you're in a hive city, so you have plenty of people that, who cares if they go missing? There's 500 billion of us.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, you were in the underhive, that means you're fair game, because there's no law enforcement there, effectively. I mean, that's the other thing as well. The underhive, it's not like specific to Necromunda. Kind of, it looks like, from what I can tell, it seems as though hive cities generally follow a very similar pattern, no matter the planet they're on. And Necromunda is like a good kind of template for that. But the lower down you live, the worse it is. So by the time you get into the underhive, like, law enforcement is basically nothing down there. It's roving gangs, usually sponsored by the houses of the middle of the spire, searching out Archeotech, vying for power, doing anything they can to remain relevant and or strong in this environment. And so the underhive is just a place for exiles and maniacs to fight it out constantly, day after day.
Cool.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I love place that sounds worse than literal hell.
I love horribly depressing options currently available to us. It's the greatest.
Oh, yeah. You never get tired of them in 40K.
You never get tired of them.
That's what makes the setting good.
It does.
It kind of is, though. Like, unironically, it kind of is, because it's just so depraved. And it's like, where else are you going to get this level of just bleh? Right?
See, in GW, they always hire a guy, you see. He's the fucked up guy. It's a special kind of guy. And this guy spends his whole life thinking, just like sitting there with a pen, like quill or something. And he's just like, how do I like write the worst thing I've ever thought of in my life? Like, when you're just walking down the street and your brain has like the worst thought imaginable, like for some reason your brain will just spike and be like, I wonder what happens if I like bombed this place. And like it just happens for no reason. Like, there's nothing about it. There's no reason for it. It just occurs. And then that guy does it, and then he takes it all, he puts it on paper, and then he adds a 40K flair.
Yeah.
What a guy.
What a guy.
And then if they can draw and or model, they hire them to make Necromunda models.
Exactly.
So that's how that goes. Actually, yeah, to be fair, as Shai said, gangs keep some resemblance of order in the underhive. When you reach the sump, it's nothing but lunatics, chaos cultists, gene stealer cultists, and horrible monsters. It's kind of like, in a way, the lawlessness only really applies to the house gangs, because they just fight each other and kill each other. But you also can't really do anything without their say-so. So in a weird way, they are keeping order, kind of, but they're also vying for power and vying for the amount of Archeotech and random good resources and weapons and all sorts of nonsense that you can find in hive cities is improbable, but it's one of the things that makes them so fun. So there's a lot of fighting over territory, over artifacts, that sort of thing. It's when you get like below the underhive into the crushed lower layers and forgotten foundations that things get really sort of just off the wall mad. Yeah.
Yeah. Lovely.
I love it. It's so fun.
So good.
It's such a level of like, it's like a warm blanket. It's just like it's a nice like comfy blanket of like, we're back into just the horrifying world of Warhammer.
It's a warm, comfy blanket of skin.
Yeah, it's like I'm sitting there with like a big blankie with some hot chocolate. I'm there like watching Arcane and just like, what human misery. I love it here. That's the plot.
Everybody wants to be your enemy.
Insert cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So spires, hang on, I've got a picture because I love the spires. The spires are fantastic. So kind of like the nobles can get bored. The nobles want to do stuff. They want to go and prove themselves. So you have spires, which are kind of like the youths of noble houses. They have really nothing that they can get whatever they like. They don't know like hunger or kind of financial strain. They can just do whatever they like. They're nobles and they live at the top of the spire. So it's whatever they need. But they will go into the lower levels to hunt, to try and prove themselves. They get insane, expensive suits of armor, and they go down and they make a name for themselves in the lower levels of the hives because they want to. They don't need to. They could just live a life of luxury. But no, they go down having been like surgically altered to fit into these insane combat suits, so that they can go and murder people and all weird things in the depths of the hive cities.
Wait, so they're just like, I'm so bored of being so rich. I want to kill. I need to kill. And
pretty much. Yeah.
To
be fair, that mini slaps though.
Mini's cool. It's very
great.
Like the wasn't the most dangerous game or whatever. Kind of has that like similar vibe where it's just like they've done so much they can do whatever they want. Like, what's one thing they can't do a lot of? Murder. Turns out you kind of can though.
So when you say they go and I'm about to make a name for myself, like, are they specifically going for like are they looking to actually like help people by like killing, like, say there's a mutant psyker down there? Okay, they're
absolutely not. They don't care about that.
Okay, just making sure we're on the same page here. So they're just going down there killing anything that moves because he I want to kill.
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
So to give you an idea, this is Lady Hera Helmore. She initially made a name for herself by being an absolute psychopath who, despite being the daughter of Lord Helmore, the ruler of Necromunda, just went into the underhive, went into the underhive and just started. She wanted to murder people. She liked playing the game being, can I stab you quick enough that I don't die first? So, she's an absolute psychopath. And she sort of went down primarily just for the love of the game being killing people.
Oh, boy.
Now, things changed slightly. When Hive Secundus became more available, and people could go into Hive Secundus, which is a demolished, broken hive, is full of malstrained gene stealers. Mm-hmm. So they are gene stealers that have been infected by a genetic disease that was concocted to try and wipe them out. Instead, it just made them all creepy and weird, and some of the best miniatures Games Workshop has ever made. Just as a side note, Lady Helmore was like, oh, brilliant, a new challenge. So she had herself surgically altered to wear that suit so that she could go and hunt. She is a nutter. She's an absolute psychopath in the best way. So it was like, okay, killing people is all fine and good, but this malstrain stuff, there's also artifacts I could maybe get. Please do chop off my legs above the knee so I can wear this Archeotech suit and go and fight aliens up close and personal.
She's
great.
Right.
I won't lie. It is kind of, there's rich, and then there's I've got 2 servo skulls lifting up my robes rich. Though I have to say, the thing that I like the most about that mini, because I think it absolutely slaps, is the fact that she can't see shit. Like, how is she turning her head?
No, not at all.
Her jacket's so puffy.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
That's
so
part of the
massive.
challenge, man. That's part of the challenge,
It's
right? She's got
puffy.
tunnel vision.
It's so puffy. She can't like turn left or right. She has to turn like Michael Keaton's Batman, where he has just to turn the whole way around.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, I don't know. It's just so funny to me. The mech,
cool, though. Such a good mini.
the mech is really cool. I won't lie.
Yeah, they're great. And the ones I've just put in, those are the Malstrain Gene Stealers. So they're all deformed and messed up.
Yeah.
Those are rocking.
Yeah, those
I
are
love
really cool. I would like
Absolutely
them for
love.
like a replacement for Tyranid Gene Stealers personally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're great.
I bet
So-
Necromunda models get like proxied in a lot, right? For like 40K games. Because, whew, those are dope.
Hera's cruel and manipulative nature greatly aided her when she killed 6 of her surviving siblings after they foolishly attended a family meeting she had called. Ah, yes, foolishly attending the family meeting.
You should know better than to come to the family barbecue. Come on.
I was about to say, like, oh yeah, like of course. How dare you? How did what you've known? I would have killed you.
Yeah, don't you know me, but at all?
Oh,
Come on.
that's so silly.
Invincible Season 1, Episode 1 vibes for that one for me, to be honest. Spoiler alert, I guess, for like, what, 2 years ago? When did that come out?
Everybody
more than
knows
that,
the horrors of Episode 1 of Invincible. Yeah. Like, that got memed on so hard when it came out, and it got so... Yeah, nobody doesn't know about that.
Oh, so good. So, there are other Hive worlds, and there's a couple that I wanted to mention. So Necromunda is like the kind of template for it. It's the most well known because, of course, I was going to say Necromunda is set on Necromunda, but that's a stupid thing to say because clearly, we did talk about Land Under earlier, just briefly, which the name is fine and it makes sense. But it just makes me think of that song that I can't remember who sang it about I come from a land down under. And
where women roll and men thunder.
Yeah, I just get that in my head every time I see it, which is not helpful.
No, but that's okay. We're here for you.
It's catchy, but not necessarily in a good way. So, as Hive worlds go, it's not the most highly populated, but that is because Land Under is a absolutely insane world. One of my favorite things that I've ever read from 40k, and I wouldn't have known if it wasn't for researching this episode. So it's called that because the geography's inverted. The planet has got a crust that just floats freely on a chemical ocean.
So it just kind of rolls around.
But there are 8 hive cities that are built on the underneath of the crust, with a 9th that has spires that extend above the waterline and a down spire that reaches nearly to the bottom of the ocean. So you've got like kind of a continent-shaped land.
Again?
Okay, so you've got like continent-shaped lands. But they are floating. They're not anchored to anything. They like kind of shift around the world. And instead of the hive cities being built on top of them, they are built on the underside of them. So that instead of reaching for the stars, they're reaching for the core of the planet.
Oh, wow. That must be a trippy... Please tell me there's art.
That's it. What you see from Shy there, that's it. Which is so sad because it's so cool.
That sounds like it would be the coolest looking thing ever.
It's
I mean,
great. It's
outside
crazy.
Outside of the other painful parts of it, naturally. The other more difficult issues that go along with it.
So they produce, they make cyber mastiffs, and they mine the oceans for crystals, which they then trade. And that's the whole world. There's 9 cities. They're on the wrong side of the land masses, so they're pointing in, not up. And that's the whole thing.
Is there any reason they can't build on top of them? Is it just because, like, oh yeah, because they're floating, they just can't? Or
if there's a reason, it's not given. I think it's because they're so flimsy. But then you'd think if they're that flimsy, why build them on the underside, which is arguably even worse. But I think we're back into the thing of it's 40k, whatever.
Yeah. I was just thinking, like, the only thing that would be cooler than that is if there were hive cities built on, like, both ends, so they were like they look like a mirror image of themselves because they're just coming, like, they're going below and above. It'd be
that
cool.
Would be badass, to be fair. So we
well.
Also, I really wish there was art for it. It feels unfair. We did also mention Minia, which has got the population of 154 billion, which is by itself stupid. So they have a 2 million strong garrison. They export 1,249,000 people a year for the guard. And at one point, some cheeky so-and-so called Guta Inverin opened a warp rift at the top of a hive tower.
Oh,
which
could have gone bad.
Was Guter a noble, or was he just some dude who wanted to stick it to the man?
Rogue Psyker. Decided, you know what? I'm summoning a keeper of secrets. Let's go.
Smoking duck gif, classic.
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 But it was okay, because a squadron of Iron Knights led by, this is the best name I've ever come across for a commander, Commander Golden Dag Morningstar.
Is he a fucking orc?
Sounds like an orc name.
It actually does like it. So yeah, they just went and killed the Psyker and it closed the rift and it was fine. But for a second there, Minia got some real excitement. Some real excitement.
They were stoked. Yeah. They were like, "Hoo, let's go!"
Yeah. Oh no.
Okay. Land Under art for DK by Shy, age 9. Shitty ocean. This way to space. Floating crust. Underhive. Hive spire.
Thanks, Shy. Actually, is that how? I don't know why I thought land under was actually like 2 separate words.
Also,
like it was land space capital U under. But yeah,
let's add 2 circles next to floating crust, and then we have Squidward's nose. Come from a land down under.
Kira, just talk about the next thing, please.
I just misread floating crust as something more bleepable, and it really, I don't know where I am now. It's really messed me up.
I gotta be honest, Shy. That Hive spire is looking like a little too big. I think we should really take that down a notch. I'm getting a little self-conscious.
Yeah, same.
It's just unrealistic, isn't it?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Can't you be throwing that out?
Yeah, that's I'm starting to get a little like sad. Anyway,
right. So Kiriath, what's next, buddy?
Let's
Take
do
us out
one
of this
more
hellscape.
One more Hive world, which is Coronis Agathon. I look. This is a mild tangent again. I love the world building in 40k. I love the names. I utilize a lot of the naming conventions from 40k in my D&D campaigns. But when you've been reading them for, a good couple of days, it starts to blur into a mess of pronunciations that aren't right. But at the same time, you can't help but overanalyze and get it wrong more than you get it right. Do you know what I mean? Like, you see something and you go, that's a normal word. They've just put is on the end of it. And then I get it wrong again. And it makes me sad. So
me when Necrons add KH to literally everything they do.
Yeah. It's 40k. Nobody knows how to pronounce anything in this damn thing. You're fine.
It's true.
The Primarch of the Ultramarines is literally entirely about that.
It's true. Now nobody can pronounce his name.
I'm still in favor of everyone just calling him Robert. I've heard Robert so many times, just Robert, and I'm like, I can see it. To be honest,
the lion waking up and be like, "Dab me up, Bob." Like,
just call him Bobby Ultra, and that's fine. We don't need anything else. So, the world of Coronis Agathon, it's notable because there are 10 million Imperial Guard soldiers on it.
Right.
So it's a hive. It's technically a fortress world, but it's also got hive cities on it. And it's garrisoned by 10 million Imperial Guard. And during the Dark Age of Technology and the Age of Strife, it just got through those totally fine. Survived them, no worries. And then, during the Great Crusade, it was brought into the Imperium by an expeditionary fleet and a family of rogue traders, which is a cool detail. At that point, it became a really important hub for the Imperium. So it ended up being like the kind of center of multiple other planets called the Agathian Domain. At which point, it also became well known for its Solar Auxilia cohorts, so the heresy equivalent of Imperial Guard regiments. Except then the Horus heresy happened. And there was an actual little debate as to which way things should go, except the rogue traders, the family that initially delivered this planet to the Imperium, led a coup and sided with the Emperor and wipes out a bunch of naysayers.
Led a coup to side with the Emperor.
Yep.
Wow.
Which kind of gives us an idea as to which way that was heading, doesn't it? The wording of that.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank God they chose the winning side.
And they're still going today. Clearly, the right decision was made. So
I feel like they would still be going today, even if they made the wrong decision. It would just be
probably
under new management, as they tend to be. But yeah,
there is one more that I cannot find the note that I made for it, but I remember specifically there being a hive on a world, and I can't remember which world it was, and it's really annoying me. Where it's a hive city that is led by a group of democratically elected council members.
Oh.
Which, for 40k, is an insane statement. And other hives on that world have tried to, unseat their, ruling council and have been unable to do so. But I love the fact that democracy, that's a no-no. You can't go around doing that. We've got to get rid of them. We've got to kill them, depose them, whatever it takes. But they're persevering.
No, so they're not dead yet. The democracy is still alive.
It's still going.
Impossible.
It's still going. I wish I could find the name of the world, but there is a hive city, potentially one out of God knows how many, that have a democratically elected council, and they are governing the people. Just the one, no more. Just that one place.
That's lovely. I love that idea. It's just like, fantastic. We just have this one democratic system, and I'm sure I give it maybe 2 books before the Inquisition arrives, and they're like,
yeah, and gets rid of them.
Nah, we ain't doing that. All right, overthrow it, bring in the guard, send it out.
That's not how this works. Get out.
The Inquisition are too busy with other stuff than to worry about democracy on one hive world, right?
Turns out all the I was gonna say Democrats, but that's just what democracy comes from. All of the phrasing, all of the democratically elected officials are all gene stealer cults. Aha! They have 3 arms and everything.
It was
honestly,
all a ploy by an enemy.
That probably makes the most sense as to why that one place has democracy.
Yeah, it's all just nonsense.
Yeah, it's all just a ploy set up by the Tyranids to one day come and conquer it. Yeah, they're just waiting for the right generation to get in there.
Chai is right, though. I mean, so long as they're paying their tithe, I don't think they give a shit.
Yeah, Yeah, they'd have no reason to go there as long as the goods are coming through.
How many guard are you sending? That many? All right. Well.
Yep, checks out.
There it is.
Knocked that off the paper. Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
Lovely. 40K.
It's a good time. It's
good.
Well,
it's a good time for us to be reading it.
Exactly.
It's a bad time for them.
Yeah, you don't want to be there, but you know.
I love the learning. I dislike the pain, or being a part of the pain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would hope to not be submitted to this level of ridiculousness.
Yeah, I like
you
being
mean
on the
Adeptus
side.
ridiculousness.
Oh no,
hey, let's
he's being
go.
trained.
I didn't have to do that. Let's go. We haven't done that bit in a while, though.
It's been so many episodes as well, and I did it, and then immediately, like, did you hear I ran out of energy halfway through the?
I did.
Word.
You were just like, I do.
The will to live shattered.
Brought down.
I wasn't going for any other reference there, bud.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
Sending you to land under.
Standard ending at this point for these ones, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, do we not have any more? Are we done?
I mean, we're running pretty long. I feel like you've got the gist of it.
Right.
Yeah,
it's a horrible nightmare of too many people in a small space, and if you go outside, you die. So you know.
So
it's
pretty much what I'm doing
Dallas.
right now.
I was waiting for it. I was waiting for a city name, or just it's now.
Yeah, I mean, you could pick a few. You could be like, it's like San Francisco. It's like Dallas. I won't even
London,
say
Birmingham.
Yeah.
Or Ohio. Cleveland is the standard one too.
I've just scrolled up, and now I'm just like, yeah, the Burj Khalifa does look like a hive city, but for some reason that feels like it shouldn't be said out loud. But I'm not really sure why.
I think we should ignore New York City for the most part. Cause I'm trying to think of particular cities.
Well, just in general.
Yeah,
pretend it's not there.
I had my fair share of Italians recently on a stream. You know, I got to roll it back. But I mean, I feel like, what is it? I want to pick cities where leaving the city is like certain death. Wait a minute, it's Las Vegas.
Hey,
it's Vegas. Of course.
Got there in the end.
Yeah.
Of course.
I mean, there are so many stories of people who go to Vegas, gamble all of their money away, and then they literally cannot afford to leave Vegas. So they get stranded there because you can't, like, it's a nightmarish desert. Like, it is in the middle of
it's in the middle of nowhere, isn't it? It's
actually just nowhere.
Yep.
People forget that like 90% of California is like a massive desert, and it's just at least in like the bottom half, and like everyone is stationed on the coast, as you should be.
Yeah,
and so when you're making your way to Las Vegas out in the middle of Nevada, you know, it is. Yeah,
start to realize how empty California actually is.
And I mean, like, Nevada's pretty empty too, but like it's stationed there, and if you can totally get stranded there, and you just can't get home because
it's a really long walk.
It's a really long walk. In order to drive to Vegas, it takes me about 4.5 hours as a straight shot, and it is pure. It is like nothing but pure desert.
How many miles from you to Vegas?
It is 272 miles away from me, which is 437 kilometers.
Good proportion of like my audience is from the US, and they marvel at how I can't get anywhere in any amount of time. I drove 100 miles a few months ago, and it took me 5.5 hours. And now I feel robbed even more than I did before.
It's pretty okay.
Shai, did you pick that just because it goes through Peniston, Cock Alley, and Slut's Hole Lane?
Oh, let's not forget Cockbridge, Dick Place, and Cockermouth.
Oh yeah, going all the way up to Twat. It's important to get all the way up to Twat from Shitterton.
Let's not forget Ass Hill. Are these real? I don't know if they're real.
There is no way.
Real. No,
there is no way.
They're real. They're real.
No.
I don't know how to phrase this. I don't know how to say it without like sounding like I'm making some sort of joke. I have been to Cockermouth. It's a real place.
All my willpower, dude.
There's only so much I can do, right?
Also, this is all going in the bloopers, right, Shy? Like, right?
I don't know. I think this is good. Also, like,
okay,
just to, I mean, we talked about this before, Kirioth. Like, you got to look at the comparison.
California's a lot bigger than you think.
Yeah.
Also, you have like mountains and stuff.
Anytime I see someone say, "Oh yeah, I took a road trip and it was 500 miles," I'm like, "Yeah, but we can't go 50 miles without hitting roadworks that limit you to 30 miles an hour. So how am I supposed to get anywhere in this tiny ass country?" Oh, I said ass, not arse. Oh, that feels like a betrayal.
No. You're slowly going to us now.
We've got him, Ricky. We've got him.
Let's go.
I'm going to be kicked out via Shitterton.
Shove him into Shitterton and make him never be able to leave.